We ready? Okay, good evening and welcome to the October 17th regular meeting of San Luis Coastal Unified School District. We have a translator available this evening online, and if you need translation services on your Zoom screen, you'll see a small circle at the bottom of your screen, and if you click that, we will have translation available for you.
Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a todos. Esta noche tendremos interpretación al español. Si necesitan activar la interpretación, hay un círculo como un globo terráqueo en la parte inferior en donde están los controles. Apachurren español para que me escuchen en nuestro idioma. Gracias.
Thank you. All right. Immediately prior to open session, the board met in closed session and discussed one item of student personnel, a stipulated expulsion hearing, and anticipated litigation, 2 cases, significant exposure to potential litigation. At this time, I would ask the board if for a motion, and we can then vote on the stipulated expulsion.
I move approval of the stipulated student expulsion discipline agreement.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Unger and a second by Mr. Banfield. Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
Mr. Buckman.
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Mrs. Roger.
Yes, and I can't see any of you.
Okay, we will work on that for you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
I am a yes. And I'll point out that Mrs. Hinton is not here this morning, this evening. Otherwise, the rest of the board is present and accounted for. Do we have consensus on the order of business? Everyone good? Okay, thank you. All right. Down there at the end of the table are our student representatives ready for your informative presentations. All right, did you flip a coin? Who's gonna go first? Okay.
Slow High will go first today. And we have 2 people today. We switched our numbers with Morbe. I'm Taya Kalpakoff, Vice President.
And I'm Dawson Sennis, and I'm the Secretary. Sorry. Sorry, I was waiting for something. All right, so this is our slideshow prepared by our president for us to report here today. If you could go to the next slide. All right, so we had homecoming, not last weekend, but the one before, and it was a great success. We had 850 students attend, which I'm not sure in terms of school records where that lies, but it was significant. It was in our big gym, and yeah, the whole week leading up to it was great. We had a lot of school spirit. This is my 4th year at Slow High, 3rd in person. And I think this is the most spirit I've ever seen at our school. Like there's actually towards the end of the week, we had a lot of people dressing up for the spirit days. And it was really great to see that. And then when we had our homecoming court announced, the crowds were they're going crazy for everyone at the football game, and everything was great. One of the highlights that personally stuck with me was Andy Shen is a senior at our school, and Andy won the homecoming court for the senior class, and everyone in our grade knows Andy, and a lot of people at the school know Andy, and people started like shouting Andy's name and chanting it, and it was a really cool moment to see, and that was a great memorable time for me. I don't know what's next on the slideshow. Pink Out Night. Yeah, so a lot of our sports teams had a Pink Out game or Pink Out day dedicated to supporting breast cancer awareness. And we had a Pink Out game last Friday, which we kind of tied it into a Barbie theme as well. we're still kind of, Barbie's still a popular thing. So we're we try to tie that in there, and everyone showed up all pinked out at school. So that was a good one. Yeah, and so that was just a way for our sports teams to, support a cause. And then Student Congress. Okay, so we had our first. Oh no, that's
So Student Congress is under the vice president role. So we had our first meeting on October 9th, and we have 2 slides. Some are feedback that are things that ASB can actually work on and address. So some of those were song requests and student DJ at the dances, as our DJ was not a school favorite. Also, we had mixed feedback on whether Spirit Days should be simpler or if they should be more niche and more fun. But our way to solve that and work with that is we're probably going to do a Google form for recommendations on Spirit Days. And then our solution also for this song request is we will do a Google form as well. And then another thing that students brought up at Student Congress was to help with our seagull problem and our trash problem, to potentially do a point system between classes, maybe have a trash can that's like, this one's for the freshmen or something like that. And to clarify for those who don't know, Student Congress is when every 3rd period sends a representative, theoretically every 3rd period sends a representative, and we discuss them all in a group. ASB went over things that we've gone over, things we want them to know that have happened, and then we take notes of their feedback and really try to address it. So in theme with that, there are some things that they brought up that ASB cannot implement because we are not that powerful. So I don't know the best way to tell you guys all of this, but here's some things that they brought up that would be more under your purview. Act on what you will. So something that was mentioned is they were looking for more bathroom monitoring because there have been a lot of closures, which today I had to walk through like over half of our campus to find one that was open. And their suggestion of that was potentially more monitoring or more individual bathrooms, which is of course a very large investment for you guys. Another thing is, if you're aware of the art buildings, which are 500 wing, they have no fans and no air conditioning. And the students were suffering a little bit during the heat wave. So I don't know if we're going to have those buildings in future years or what the plan is for that, but perhaps just bringing in fans for them in the short term. As I've heard from many in that wing that they suffer a little bit during the fall heat waves. Another thing is, this is definitely a big investment, is our practice field, the one above where we have baseball. Many sports practice there, and the request was that we make it turf because that field gets very beaten up and there's many injuries that have stemmed from that. I've heard many stories. It gets beaten up during the weather and we had many complaints. So it would lessen maintenance and maybe reoccurring costs, but I have no idea all that would go into that. And then the last one is, if you guys are familiar, we have work experience 5th period on Monday, or work experience every week. And on Mondays we have tutorial though, and tutorial pushes back the typical start time of 5th period, and students miss their work. Because if their normal time when they get to work is like 2:20, tutorial doesn't get out until 2:50. So the suggestion was that we make a work experience tutorial. And I have no idea if that's what all of this is under your purview, but that was that. Yeah, thank you.
cool. And the last order of business is our theater company is going to do the first play, or the first full play this year. We had our 24-hour musical earlier a couple weeks ago, but this is the first full production, and it's going to be The Little Mermaid. And it's going to begin October 30th. That's earlier than I thought. And so that's coming up here very soon. So just for everyone to know, for everyone to look out for, if they want to go to a good play. So yeah. And that's it.
Thank you.
Didn't make it today. He's in AG playing water polo. Not sure how that has gone already, if they've played their whole game yet or not, but good luck to the boys water polo. Just over a week ago, last Monday, it was great. We had a nonprofit dance group from Cambria, Grupo Folclórico Tradiciones de Mi Tierra, come and perform traditional Mexican folk dances for our school in our quad. There's some pictures up on our little slideshow. Super cool to see just a different type of culture, different form of event happening on our campus. Our play is happening as well, Alice in Wonderland. There's still a chance to see it this Friday, Saturday, or this Friday at 7 p.m. and then Saturday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. On the next slide, our blood drive was this past Thursday. We were 1 pint short of our school record, but the blood bank shared that our school has been the best in the county for production during our blood drives at Morbe High in recent years. And on the next slide, there's been lots of senior nights happening for our fall sports. Many students have been coming out to see their friends and celebrate their last times of playing their sports for their senior year. And most all of the teams will be moving on to playoffs, which is super exciting. There's pictures of tennis, and girls tennis and boys and girls water polo. And this past Friday was also our senior night for cheer and football, which we also had a pink out Barbie theme as well. And ASB was selling pink heart glasses, which the proceeds are being donated to breast cancer research. And then our college night was last Thursday night and was well attended by students as well as their families. And the feedback was that all of them enjoyed their breakout sessions with reps from different college systems. There was a session from each system with an overview of the college and like the colleges within that system. Specifics about the application process, specifics about the campus that the representative supports, and time for questions from the CSU system, which were representatives from Cal Poly, from the UC system, which had representatives from UC Santa Cruz, and from private college systems, which was Pepperdine, and community college systems, which was Cuesta. And there was also a Cuesta Promise session and a session with an overview of DACA/Dreamers. And the next one, our surf team had their first competition of the year this past Sunday at the Rock, and it went great. A bunch of our students represented our school and community with pride and dignity. And of course, the team did super well in the competition. The waves were a little bit big and scary, but they all did a great job. And just a fun thing to share that Mr. Scaldi wanted to add in was that the class of 1973 was at school on Saturday this past weekend and was given a tour by Mr. Scaldi himself. And they said that they were all stunned at the wonderful remodeling and new additions to our school and our campus. And that's all I have.
As always, there's a lot of really great stuff going on. So congratulations to both schools. Our school presentation tonight happens to be Morro Bay High School, I believe. So I don't know if you want to stick around for that. San Luis, you can hear what the competition is doing. Morro Bay, you can cheer your school on, but if you need to go on, as always, we do understand that you have a lot happening in your lives, as evidenced by the information you provide. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. So yes, so Mr. Scaldi, welcome.
Hi there. Hey, great job, kids. I was lucky enough to have both these two students at Laguna Middle School when they came through, and it's fun to watch them. Click on that button. We are not going to do an installation. We're going to snooze that. There we go. How am I doing? Did that come through okay? Does it say school board highlights on everybody's screen? Well, maybe I need to share that better. Hold on just a second. You got me now? Copy that. So board, certainly superintendent, assistant superintendent, 5 minutes. I've timed myself. I'm not 5 minutes. I'm going to try to share things in our board highlights about Morro Bay High School kind of through a lens of two pieces. One is we've really tried to work to raise the bar around our students having as many doors of opportunity in front of them as they exit our campus. It felt like a lot of our kids in our community saw Cuesta as a great opportunity, and it is, but it is one of, we hope, of many. So some of this lens is through us making sure that our kids see many doors and they choose the one that works best for them. And then the second lens of highlights we want to share is just a sense of safety, belonging, and an opportunity for our kids to experience joy. So the first slide I have, and I only have 4, and you'd be surprised how long it takes me, but I have a little bit, oops, let me get that into slideshow mode so you can just see the main screen. Here we go. I'll just put all 4 of them up. So I have 4 things that I really want to talk about. That first bullet point is advanced placement, state testing, and then CTE. So in regards to advanced placement, and I think the board is pretty familiar, I've seen previous presentations. At Morro Bay High School, we made a big effort last year to encourage our students to take the class and take the tests. And so 34% more kids took the classes last year, 51% increase in total tests taken. Therefore, we had just over 30% of kids succeed with a 3 in the cohort. We were offered an accolade by AP. We're an honor roll school, but we got a special acknowledgement for AP Access Award. It's essentially the opportunity that our kids that are in subgroups, especially low socioeconomic groups, that are accessing tests, classes and tests at a high level compared to the rest of our population. And we're super gratified to have that. This year, we've offered 3 new AP classes. We have an AP Art class, we have an AP Spanish class, and we have an AP Biology class that we haven't offered last year or in years prior. We also have an extra section of 10th grade AP History, it's World History. We have an extra section of AP Environmental Science. So we have 5 AP classes this year that we weren't really offering last year. So we're trying to make sure that we're affording our kids the best opportunities to be competitive at the highest level with all universities. It was exciting. Last year we had a kid, at least one student, I shouldn't say kid, forgive me for the informality, but we had a student gain acceptance to all the major competitive UC schools. Our valedictorian chose UC San Diego. Next is just our state scores. I think that that's a key component of success. Last year, with our state data, we saw an increase overall in English of 3%, in math of 9%, in science 10%. Our subgroups did really well. The one most worth celebrating is our students with disabilities. In English, they went up 17%. In math, they went up 14%. And in science, they went up 18%. CTE, we continue to value it at a high level. Last year, we had 65% of our students complete at least one pathway, and 24.5% of our kids completed 2 pathways in last year's graduating class. We continue to make that a centerpiece of what we do when we talk about college and career preparedness and awareness. College night was mentioned by Ruby just a few minutes ago. It was a big thing for us. At Morro Bay High School, we don't have a significant culture of inviting our students and families to really dive in deep about what it means to take those steps to these different college systems. We were excited with how well it's attended. Another piece that we're trying to do to elevate is we're having College Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, we celebrate a campus. This week, it is, tomorrow it's going to be TCU, Texas Christian University. Next week, it's Davis. The week after that, it's Cerritos College. Previously, it was New York Film Academy. We had Pepperdine, ASU, University of Oregon. We had a small but really cool school on agriculture out of Georgia. Anyway, trying to make sure that every week we celebrate a campus. This is above and beyond all those schools that send reps, and we do the special meetings when, UC Riverside is here and kids can go meet that individual rep. The last thing is our College Cafe. We have specific hours on specific days for kids to come in with their parents and just sit and do their application, and we are there. It's not always you have a question, it's as you're going through it, you get the whatabouts. So we have kids sitting together in our career center, working on their applications, and somebody's there when they need them. When they get to that one screen, you're like, what do they mean right here? And so we're just excited to elevate that game. The next thing I have listed is AVID. Last year, all 22 of our AVID seniors gained acceptance to at least one campus. This year, we have 120 AVID students in our program, 9th through 12th. That's 15.5% of our campuses enrolled in AVID. We're excited. On the 13th and the 14th, they're going to go on a trip. We find that college trips are completely impactful in allowing them to see the dream that they want to find. They're going to go to Cal Berkeley. They're also going to Cal State East Bay. They're going to go to St. Mary's in Santa Clara. I mentioned St. Mary's as that is the alma mater of Dr. Prater. We're excited. Special shout out to our AVID lead teacher and coordinator, Blair Brinkman. She's done a phenomenal job. And certainly to Jane Hawley at the district level. Jane is indispensable in supporting our kids. And it is our AVID students that are largely a big part of why we earned this Access Award. They're doing a great job, and we're excited about that. Lastly, it's just to mention, we brought back our senior job shadow. It's something that Morro Bay had done in the past, and through COVID, we had not. So all of our seniors, if they were on campus last year, they started this in their junior year in their English class, exploring an industry that they're interested in. This year, if they came to us, we're going to continue that. They could change gears, but at some point this school year, they're going to be job shadowing somewhere in our community for a day. And we love that. So college and career preparedness and awareness, just some data about how we're doing and what we're trying to make sure we're supporting our kids with. The next slide I have is maybe going to go, there we go. It's just student involvement. And this one I feel I can go a little bit faster with. We feel that student involvement is something in education. We say when kids get involved, they're likely to be successful in life. But I want to argue that they're successful right now when they do it. It's better for them right now. They have a sense of belonging. They certainly have a sense of safety, and they often have a sense of joy. I've watched it, especially in fall sports. If I think about our boys water polo team, which hasn't had a history of success, and they're crushing it. They did not quite beat San Luis Obispo, but San Luis Obispo has 12 senior boys, and they have a great program. We're super proud of them. Our league has 4 of the top 10 teams in the entire section. San Luis Obispo, Arroyo Grande, and Rigetti are impressive. So is San Ynez, but we upset them. Anyway, you see the joy on these children's faces. And so our number on rosters for fall sports is up tremendously from last year. We're super excited. Our homecoming week, just like San Luis Obispo High School, we had 530 kids at our dance. That is a record. When I think about the fact that it was drizzling rain and our student section never left and never sat down the entire homecoming game, it was just amazing. Our theater show, we are blessed to have Kate Kosteka lead our kids. We have just about 50 kids involved in this production, and they are loving it. They're amazing. I watched them have a pre-opening night meal on Friday night, and it was so much fun to see them sit together and have joy. Our surf team had such a good time on Sunday, and the whole community rallying around them. FFA has done great this year, and our numbers are up. Mock trial, our numbers are up because we had such success winning the county last year, and you can bet that they're excited to repeat. And then we just have more clubs this year and more kids involved in them. We've always had some Interact has been a key club on our campus, but we started Key Club too. So getting kids involved, we tell our kids and our parents, I want your kids to do at least 2 things. I'm happy if they do 20. The more they do, the more they have a sense of I belong here, I feel safe here, and I can find joy in what I do. The next slide. I just wanted to touch on wellness. I am super excited for Janet Gould and her team to support us in SLO High in establishing a wellness center. We are grateful for our hire in Heather Willis. She's been phenomenal. We're going to work with our student Congress, our student Senate, our ASB students, our staff, and our families about what a wellness center is and how to best serve our kids. It's not adding a ton of new services, but it is a forward-facing piece that our kids will better know and understand. And I'm super excited about it. One other small thing around wellness is just to mention something that I don't know that it's widely known. It's our Boys Through Movement program. It's voluntary for kids who are struggling with stress and anxiety. It's voluntary. They do 6 weeks, 1 day a week, 45 minutes. And it's kind of art and yoga integrated. And it's really impressive. We're starting our first cohort next week. I just thought I'd mention, but I really wanted to mention that we are excited on our campus, as I'm sure San Luis Obispo High School is, about having a wellness center that is so forward facing that allows our kids to know that we're there for them. Many of them don't need us, but they want to know we're here. I make the analogy that it's really important that we have a club on campus that supports students who are LGBTQ+ or their allies. And they may never come to the club, but they want to know it's there. It creates safety. And I'm excited about this. The last thing is just to not do a right click, but to actually click on it, is just talk about all of our elective classes that are beyond those core classes. Oops, maybe I should go back one. English, math, science, history, and PE are our core classes, but they're not always why the kids get up in the morning and come to school. Certainly they can be safe and they can have belonging, but they're not always joyous. Algebra 2 can be joyous. But I would argue that at times our kids that are working in the broadcasting class are finding joy with their friends in a different way. Our kids that are in the ASB leadership class are finding different relationships, connections. They're driving themselves in different directions. So some of these, of course, are CTE pathways. And I'm super excited. They're finding something out more about an industry. But I'm excited for the kids that are in creative writing. By the way, we have 3 new courses here, and I want to mention them. Creative writing is one of them. It's new to us. We haven't been offering that in the past. Ag mechanics, we haven't offered that in over a decade. We have a huge group of students in the one section we'd offered, and we're really excited about their opportunities. The other one worth mentioning is thank you to the board for approving Heritage Spanish last year. It's a Spanish for Spanish speakers course, and we're really grateful we're able to offer that to our kids this year. But these extra classes, and they're not all CTE pathways, but they all have value and they're all worth celebrating. They allow kids to think and dream and be together in a big way. And so some of those are finding that engineering is the place for me. You know, Mr. Windorf has inspired me. I'm definitely going to be an engineer. Other ones are just enjoying the fact that they didn't realize that they had an aptitude for art and they love it and it's good for them. So while I celebrate the AP and the state testing scores, I'm glad because that opens doors for opportunity. I'm excited to say that what we're offering for our kids is a well-rounded education, and we're constantly trying to use these mantras to help them understand what we're doing. We're trying to raise the bar. We want you to have as many opportunities when you walk off this campus, and Morro Bay is a place where kindness matters. Appreciate the time. I'm open for questions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scaldi. What you have many great things going on at Morro Bay High. Not surprising, but affirming to hear about them. Mr. Clausen.
Yeah, I was really excited to see the data that was shared on both CTE and AP participation at Morro Bay. And I guess one area that stood out was you had a particularly high metric in regards to getting financial support to students taking AP tests to enable more and more students to take that. And what did you do, and is it replicable? Because it seems like probably a key contributor to your growth and participation.
Giving it voice at a high level to all of our families that kids deserve the opportunity to take them, and reaching out to my team to say, if there's any student we know of, we're going to take care of them before they have to reach out to us. So being proactive on our side and then really sharing out loud, we want kids to be taking these tests. How can we help? And families will reach out and say, hey, you know, how is there an opportunity for me to get the fee reduction? But again, a lot of it is the fact that we've created relationships with these kids. Let's say we have 31 kids in our junior year AVID class. Almost all 31 are taking an AP class. And almost all 30 of one of those, we're going to make sure that we set them up for success with the test. And almost all of them are going to have an EFC of 0. And so we're going to make sure we take care of them. So it's that level of EFC is expected family contribution when you do the FAFSA. Forgive me. We have too many acronyms in education. And so it's that attention to detail around each and every child, but it's also messaging it way out to the community. We're here to help. What do you need? That part's replicable. It's easy and hard at the same time.
No, thanks. It was really an impressive part of last year's progress, it seems.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Banfield.
I had a question regarding AP classes. The coursework is all year, correct?
Yes. Well, with the exception of AP Government and AP Econ.
Okay. The exams, are they comprehensive?
They're comprehensive and they're given globally, like at the same time, the first 2 weeks in May. It's pretty dialed in.
Are they comprehensive to the coursework?
Yes, they are. Forgive me.
Typically, how would a student then study for that comprehensive test? Just curious.
Good question. With the aid of their teacher. Our teachers are amazing, and our kids are too. And that's not just true of Morro Bay. It's true in systemically. It's true at San Luis High. It's true at all our county schools. It's become, teaching at a high level and expecting kids to learn at a high level is what AP does, and it's what we do to support them.
So instructors are encouraged to go ahead and spend some time before that exam date review.
It's more than it's an expectation. If you're going to prepare kids for an exam that our job is to prepare them for success. Yes, there's going to be a review and a preparation for that. Oftentimes teachers are taking extra time. They'll do evening meetings with their kids, weekend study groups, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's cool. It's camaraderie. It's fun. And it's exciting when kids have success.
Anyone else? Thank you so much. Yeah,
Appreciate
it
your
was
time.
really a wonderful
you, thank you.
presentation. We very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
This is really based.
Yeah. Mark, they're working on. Hey. Next on the agenda is correspondence, and at the time the agenda was prepared, and as of right before the meeting, we had no correspondence to present. Next is public comment. At this point in the meeting, we welcome public comment on items either that of interest to the school district that are not otherwise on the agenda, but or appear later on the agenda. If you don't want to stay that long, you may let us know that you'd like to speak. You have 3 minutes. We have a strict time limit. We appreciate civility towards the board in this venue. And I will ask right now, it's my understanding that Jackie Lowe wishes to speak. Is that right? If you could approach the podium. And we'll let you know when your time begins. All right.
Is this okay? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Is the timer going over there? Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
All right. Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Jackie Lowe. I'm a parent of an elementary and middle school student. I am an engaged community member, a professional educator for 8 years, a doctoral candidate in educational leadership at USC, and I'm a certified educational researcher. I am a member of SLCUSD Inclusion and Belonging Cohort, and I am a team lead for the county's Tier 1 Social Emotional Behavioral Training. I am also the chairperson for CL Smith School Site Council, and I was a committed member of the District Leadership Equity Team until its untimely discontinuation this fall. I am here tonight to introduce myself because I believe it's my civic duty to take a more active role in my community as an educational resource and advocate for equity-driven education for all students in our district. One of our district-wide goals focuses on staff and family support, and I hope that the desire to continue to improve communication in order to build a culture of trust and to foster a deeper connection to and greater levels of involvement in the school community remains today. My question tonight for the board is, why has this board permitted the abandonment of the equity work that this district began in 2018 and has allowed the false guise of county training to replace the need to create trauma-informed schools and to bring an equity focus to hiring and retention? This training through the county is designed to equip educators to create environments that are inclusive and accessible, and I believe in this work and I am guided by these principles in my own doctoral research. However, this work does not allow our district to measure and evaluate the current state of our practice, nor does it allow for community engagement to build that culture of trust and deep connection. Mr. Mayfield himself told us that we had not met our equity goals as a district on May 2nd of this year. And on May 2nd, the board commended the necessary guidance provided by this equity team. The decision to dissolve the equity leadership team should be a decision made by all stakeholders and not the home office alone. If we do not continue to put equity at the forefront of our work as educators, we will only breed inequity. I ask for the return of this work and for the assurance that community members will continue to be included. We are a community of well-educated individuals who are capable of leading this work, even if staff is not, in the absence of Rick Mayfield. I cannot think of a more important priority to the educational program at San Luis Coastal. And without an honest and consistent equity lens, how will we safeguard against years and systems of barriers and harm? Thank you for your time and consideration, and I would be happy to meet with any of you or all of you over a cup of coffee to discuss research-based equity work and how we can work together to make this district what it should be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else present who wishes to address the board at this time? Anyone on Zoom, Ms. Dawson? All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. All right. Our next item is superintendent's updates.
Yeah, business first. So we,
Sorry,
oh no, you're okay. I just
that's the
make
whole
sure.
routine.
I'll start.
If you guys
Uh,
don't know by now your order,
yeah, that's right.
you know.
We should. So it business, just quick business update. The county assessor's office has put the tax estimate out. So I had a chance to look at that with Katie Ekman today. So just a couple of key things. Our final taxes were actually higher than the estimate that they originally put out. So I'm hopeful that that will happen again. The actual number that comes to the district is called the P1, right, which is the first attendance period. So we should get that. It has to go to CDE by November 15th. So in the next couple of weeks, I should know for sure what that number is. In looking at the breakdown, they did drop the unitary tax. Diablo Canyon, which we didn't know for sure what was going to happen, right? But that dropped $600,000 from last year. So it went from 5 million to 4.4 million. So it looks like that continuing to drop is still happening, right? As predicted as we went through. Now, again, I don't think there's a final Diablo staying open yet or what's going to happen or those types of things. So we'll still wait to see what happens in terms of the future with that. But just so the board knows that did drop. So when you see these like large numbers, the Tribune ran an article a couple of weeks ago, right, about property values and things in the city, San Luis Obispo, and the coast, and the county, and these types of things. Realize that $600,000 has a dramatic, drop in the actual percentage that we receive as a school district, right? So, still better than our estimate that we had in our 10-year estimate. So, I'm looking at anywhere from like a 4.19% increase. That's what it would be right now, looking at this estimate versus what we had last year in actual revenue. If we see the same increase from the estimate to actuals, then it could rise up to a 5.75. So I'll know that in the next few weeks, right? And I'll be sharing that information with the board. I've reached out to our union partners, kind of let them know what's going on, the information, those types of things. We try to make sure everybody is, knowledgeable about what the finances of the school district are, and it's just interesting information in terms on that front. So not a negative thing, right? We're very fortunate in that even with the decline in unitary tax, our property taxes have, maintained at least what our perspective was going to be.
Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Clausen.
So my understanding correctly, property taxes went up, unitary went down, net impact was positive because the property tax increase was greater than the decrease.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So despite the $600,000 drop, we still had a 4.19 increase. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next is Ms. Yamashita. Our Ed Services update.
Good evening, board. It's been a fun couple of weeks since I got to visit with you all last. I want to highlight and celebrate last Friday. Our Elementary Athletics for Achievement program had a big district-wide activity with our volleyball girls across at SLO High in 3 locations, and the cross-country boys were running at, I think, CL Smith. And we had boys soccer going on at Laguna, and lots of happy children's faces and families' faces and collaboration and community. Also, we have kicked off campus supervision planning with Resolute with our SLO High and Morro Bay High campuses to focus as a component related to the safety plans around nutrition breaks and lunch breaks and before and after school and school events. How can we best provide student supervision in an equitable manner? And we held our first district English Learner Advisory Council meetings. Director Stephanie Shepard and Leilani Green met with our committees to talk about needs and moving forward with our dual language immersion programs and how our students in the English Learner program are doing, and to answer families' questions. We also kicked off our summer experience planning. It's already time to get ready for next summer here in our offices. And I've been having meetings with community partners. We've been digging into our CASP comparison data, which you received earlier today, I think, from Dr. Prater's office, comparing our district data with surrounding districts and other districts across the state, as well as I had the opportunity to attend a couple days of breakthrough coach training to get me to be a transformational talker and work closely with my new assistant, Teresa Braden, to maximize our efficiency in serving everyone. So it's been a busy couple weeks.
Thank you. All right, back to Mr. Pinkerton, I believe, for Measure C and D update.
Yeah, so on the Measure D and C, I had 2 CBOC meetings over the past 2 Mondays. So had a Measure C meeting, kind of bringing them up to speed with the Measure C projects at our 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and Pacific Beach Continuation School. And then this past Monday, we took the Measure D committee around San Luis Obispo High School, in particular to see the entire 100 building now completed. So the new library, career center, commons, food service, classrooms up top, our science labs again, and they were blown away by all the positive work that we've been able to accomplish as a district with the school. So kind of that last step, that the quad area, grasses, those types of things coming forward is a positive, right, as we move forward. And then we're actually probably going to hold our last Measure D CBOC meeting at Morro Bay High. So as soon as we open up the last classroom building there, I'm going to walk them through that area, and that will be the end of our Measure D CBOC at that point. Of course, our Measure C CBOC has just started. So it was nice for them to actually, and I had invited them to the Measure D walk at SLO High, and they were blown away, the Measure C people, by what got accomplished. So it was just nice for them to meet the other CBOC members, to touch base, kind of, those types of things, and just a positive start to the week.
Thank you very much. All right, next item is 9.01, resolution determination of sufficient textbooks and instructional materials. Good evening.
Good evening. The board will recall that a public hearing was held on October 3rd of this year, 2023, to determine that the district has sufficient textbooks and instructional materials. Tonight, the district presents resolution number 102324, which is a determination of sufficient textbooks for action.
All right. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to us about this resolution? All right, no one present or on Zoom. Any questions from the board? If not, then this is an action item. Mr. Buckman.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 102324, determination of sufficient textbooks and instructional materials. And I can see that it wasn't an easy task, but it's a great task.
I'll second.
Right, we have a motion by Mr. Buckman, a second by Mr. Unger. Mr. Buckman.
Yeah.
Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Mrs. Roger.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brief vote on a lot of work.
Thank you.
Right. Next, we were able to have someone come out of her quiet little closet where she's so shy and retiring. We hardly ever see her, or hear from her. Yeah.
I might need a handhold.
Erin Primer to talk with us about the food and nutrition services. Welcome, Erin. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so very much. I'm so excited to be here tonight with all of you and to share some updates about what's going on in our district food service program. I'm going to talk fast because I have lots of things to share, so bear with me and we'll leave some time at the end for any questions. Tonight, we're going to get to share a little bit about our grand opening celebrations at Morro Bay and SLO High, a little bit about our summer staff professional development at the CIA. I'll let you think about what that might mean. Some advocacy in action. We've made some local news. We've had a California Crunch event, and we'll talk a little bit about what the future has in store for us as well. So we've had a very busy opening new year. We've been opening some new kitchens. We've been engaging with staff in professional development. We've been trying out some new recipes. making a few headlines, and of course, having some fun. And we're really excited to share with you more about what that's looked like for us. Thought we'd start with a little quote. Healthy school lunches mean students are getting the nourishment they need to power their minds and bodies to learn. We're going to circle back to that at the end of this. So think about that. This was from Chef Ann Cooper, who's the original Renegade Lunch Lady. So some grand opening celebrations. You've seen us at Morro Bay. We talked a little bit about that tonight with their incredible facility. San Luis Obispo High School with their incredible new cafe and commons. And just to show some of the recipes that we're able to do with such incredible equipment, this is a recipe served at both high school locations, a teriyaki chicken plate with local roasted broccoli and some steamed brown rice. So just to give you a little bit of a tour at Morro Bay, just in case nobody's been there yet, I'm going to talk while these videos go on, but I just wanted people to get a sense of the quality of our facilities, the beautiful equipment that we've been able to bring in, things like double pizza impingers and rotisserie ovens and walk stations. We've been able to increase participation at both breakfast and lunch and really just have a much more positive environment for students and staff alike in these incredible new facilities. If you haven't been out yet, definitely come by for a meal. It's pretty delicious and fantastic. In addition to these new facilities, well, what do you do when you have all this beautiful new equipment? You got to train people on how to use them. So we were lucky enough to be able to take our staff to the CIA. You might be thinking like Secret Service. It actually is the Culinary Institute of America. And we went to Copia up in Napa to take our staff. How did we do this? Well, we made it rain. Actually, the state of California made it rain, which was really awesome. We received KIT funds. This is Kitchen Infrastructure and Training Funds. And these funds can be used, you can see on the screen what we were allocated. They can be used for staff training, like this Culinary Institute of America that we took staff to, and or equipment. So we purchased some refrigerators, freezers, ovens, things of that nature. You can see our KIT funds in action look pretty great. Look at these happy faces and smiling people. It was pretty exciting to step into what we will call the Harvard of culinary schools and be welcomed with open arms. Our staff was just really excited. And you can see from some of these images just how great it really was. This was also a celebration of many of our partners. So just to give some shameless shout outs, we had the Center for Eco-Literacy, Eat Real. We had representative from Senator Laird and Senator Dodd's office, the California Food Banks. We also had Senator Nancy Skinner, who is here pictured with us in the middle. She's right next to first partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and also Kim Frenzel, the state director from CDE. So it was really exciting to be able to show Sacramento what we can do when they give us a little bit of money and we have a little bit of creativity with how we serve staff. This was another video just to showcase. It's really hard to describe the beauty and wonder of these Heston kitchens. So as you look around, you can get a sense of the high quality equipment that we were able to work with, very similar to our high school facilities. And this is some of the food that we were able to create. The shirts that we had made for this event say on the back, in this kitchen, excellence starts with good ingredients. We thought that was a really nice way for us to bring home this idea of going to the Culinary Institute, getting some exceptional training, nice skills, mise en place. And I don't know about you, it might just be that it's dinner time, but that looks so delicious and I want to eat it all again. So what are we going to do with all of that? And what does that look like when we come back? These are some of the recipes that have been inspired just this year by our time at CIA. So we have pozole on the menu. We have a quinoa salad. Right now we're in our winter side quinoa salad with some honey roasted butternut squash. We have curry dishes on the menu. We made a beef curry at CIA and we have a veggie curry on our dish on our menu right now. And the house cinnamon rolls. So we've had cinnamon rolls on the menu for a while. Some of you know very well about the cinnamon rolls, but we haven't made our own dough yet. So the next step for us is making our own dough. And when we asked the Culinary Institute, hey, would you do a scratch-made dough process cinnamon roll and just show us? They were like, yeah, let's do it. So they really were able to show us a lot to get our staff more comfortable with what comes next. And you can just see how happy everybody really was to be a part of such an incredible event. This was in their museum, and you can see that there's a lot of really fun culinary gadgets, and we just had a really great time. There was also another school district that joined us. So if you're looking at faces that look a little unfamiliar, Live Oak Unified was able to partner with us and attend the same training. It was a great, great partnership. Other things that we've been up to, SB 348, you guys may have heard about this, maybe not. It's passed. And the reason why I say you may have heard about it is San Luis Coastal went to Sacramento. The picture in the top right with our Gusto magazine, we really wanted lawmakers to not just understand that the laws that they were writing and creating were going to be impacted by schools, but we thought we need them to know firsthand what that's really like. And if we're going to make a law that's going to be around reducing sugar or having a sugar standard at all in school food, reducing sodium, allowing students more time to eat, providing more food for older students, and maximizing summer meal programs, what better way than to show them with the food that we serve to our students already? So we brought some of our low sugar chocolate chip muffins, we brought our local cheese box, we actually brought samples to legislative offices, and I think that really helped with the law passing, but that's just me. It was a really great way to see. I actually was the lead witness on both the Assembly and the Senate. I was able to go up to Sacramento twice and sit next to Senator Skinner and really describe the impact of what a strong school meal program can bring to students and how we can really leverage school meals to make a really big difference, not just in the lives of kids today, but I think really shape the health outcomes of tomorrow. I'm sure you guys have seen some of our other news articles. I'm not going to click on them all, but they're all linked in the presentation. I was very honored to be recognized as a school food renegade from the Chef Ann Foundation for stirring up change. They only selected 10 people, and I'm next to Nancy Skinner and Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and that's pretty amazing. So wow, that was a really big deal. Cal Matters also put a really nice article together. It was titled "Goodbye Hot Dogs, Hello Vegan Masala. California school lunches are going gourmet," and they called out the professional development training that we did at the CIA with those KIT funds. So really trying to show that advocacy in action and really showcasing to other districts across the state and nation what's possible. In Steal This Idea, we were featured in Food Service Director magazine. They've gone online now, so I've got a link to that article. We had somebody who happened to be in SLO for a wedding, and she was like, "Hey, I heard you guys are doing really cool stuff. Can I come by?" I was like, "Yeah, great. Let's go for a ride." Went to SLO High, went to Morro Bay High, saw Bishop's Peak, and she put together 5 ideas that people could steal from San Luis Coastal. I didn't even realize that's what she was doing until this article came out. And one of the things she talked about was our homemade blueberry sauce, which is made with no sugar and local maple extract. So some of those secret little ways to reduce sugar, but it is possible. And the Center for Eco-Literacy also put together a really nice blog post about how California is celebrating the investments in school nutrition programs with things like KIT funds. It really is the bridge between universal free meals and farm to school. Those KIT funds really allow us to make both of those things happen in a much more positive way. Okay, so last Friday, we also did something really exciting. In addition to sports that were going on, we had a California Crunch event. We went to CL Smith. You can see one of our folks there, Teresa, and we had students taste local apples. There were 5 of them. There was Mutsu, which looks like this guy here. There's Splendor, which is this little guy. So the secret is you're going to look for the green skin or the red skin, Roxbury, Jonagold, and Brayburn. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I had never had a Mutsu apple, nor had I ever had a Splendor apple, and they're pretty delicious. So I was really hoping that you guys would get to taste them and then vote for your favorite. What one's your favorite? Now, I won't make you get up and put a sticker on anything. You can wear the sticker if you like. I love that you wear the sticker. I also might have asked Mr. Bonin to wear one, and I appreciate his humor. And so it's fun to engage kids with not only something that's different, something that they may have never tasted before, but it's also really fun to get to vote for something. So if you feel the need to vote, feel free. But aren't those great? Thank you. Send them out to other friends. Really delicious, right? Mutsu, what a fun name for an apple. And those are all from a local farm, Windrose Farm, grown in Paso Robles, California. So the future of our program, where do we go from here? Staffing, it's really about staffing. We want to invest in this program. We want to continue to grow our people. We are hiring. We want people to know that we have great jobs. We have a great district. We have an incredible program. So come and work with us. We're looking for drivers, food service workers, substitutes, and more. And we're lots of fun, so come hang out with us. We're also going to be getting one of the chef trainers from the CIA to come down to San Luis and do some more training with us. So we're going to continue this high-level training. That goes in line with our staff PD, so more nice skills. You can see here that this is actually an example of mise en place, everything in its place. So when we talk about preparing for a dish, it's much easier to have all of your ingredients out and ready to go versus, oh, I forgot this. I got to go run and grab that. Oh, wait, I need one of those. I got to go grab that. So you can actually see this picture here is also Teresa with all of her mise en place in place. This is exactly what it looks like when you come back from CIA and you get a lot of great ideas on what you want to do. Compostable goods, we're also piloting some compostable goods. We want to find the right packaging. There's a lot of rules around recycling and composting. So we're piloting this program, but you can see things like compostable utensil stations at our high schools. And so we're looking for the right trays and things, and then we'll be rolling that out district-wide. And more local food. Currently, we're buying from over 30 different local farms and food businesses. That actually happens to be 30% of our total food budget, which is pretty exciting, especially knowing that we started with one farm 7 years ago. It was Kiwi, it was great. And we've just seen that grow. So we really want to continue to see that number grow. My dream is that 100% of our school food comes from SLO County. And I got a little bit more to work there, but I think that's a nice dream to have. And this is the power of school meals. These are two students, one at Baywood and one at Smith. And this is the story of how school food changed the world and created a better future for all of our children. Thank you. That was pretty good. Did all right on time? All right. Ooh, 12 minutes. That's pretty good. And hi, Miss Roger. It's nice to see you. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Mr. Clausen, then Mr. Banfield.
Well, so I'm newer to the board and your program has been amazing to me as I've learned more and more about it. And I'm just really impressed by everything you've done. But I also have a question, which is you managed through facilities at SLO High School for 7 years. And how is the new transition to the new cafeteria there? And how did you even manage through that period? And what is it like now, I guess?
Wow, well, I could describe it as the difference between riding a bicycle and then getting a Ferrari. It's a little different, right? It's a little different, but it's been absolutely incredible. I think what is most humbling is that as much as it's a space for our staff and our program, it's really a space for students. And what I realize now is that it was very difficult for them for 7 years to not have a place, to not have a space to sit down and eat, a space to identify with as their own. And so there was a lot of maybe hesitation as we got into the new building and do we need to do this? And what about that? And are our kids going to behave, right? This is like a big deal. They are the most respectful, wonderful, incredible recipients of this gift because they know that it's theirs and they know that it matters. It matters to them. It matters to have that gathering space. And I'm amazed every time I'm there for lunch at the camaraderie that's there, the citizenship that is there. And I mean things down to there's not trash left on tables. Things aren't disheveled. And so it's really amazing that as much as our staff has appreciated and wanted this new space, I think it means even more that we see how much the students tune into that and how special of a space it is for them.
Thank you. Mr. Banfield.
Well, first an observation, I'd really like to see that facility in Morro Bay. I know I missed an opportunity once, but I'd really like to see it. It reminds me of the BYU Cougar Eat. Really classy. It's really nice. Now I have a question, and what do you know about monk fruit as a sweetener?
I know a little bit about monk fruit. I don't know if I can find it locally, but I do know that there are many brands of alternative types of sugars. And I think that's what we have to start looking at. There's a lot of salt and sugar and fat in our foods in general. So what can we find that will still make things taste really good, but won't have a lot of those same nutrients that we're trying to avoid? So looking at creative things, whether or not it's monk fruit, I think that's yet to be decided for us. But we are finding things like these extracts where you still get that flavor without the additional sugar. I've personally tried some monk fruit syrups, and so I don't think they taste any different. They still give you that sweet essence. But it's really about getting kids to want to try things, even alternative things that may be a little bit different, that are just really good for you and center around tasting delicious.
I use monk fruit on my oatmeal every morning.
Nice. Powder, sugar, how do you use it?
It's a sugar form.
Sugar form, granulated. Nice. Thank you.
So Mr. Unger, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I continue to be impressed by the work that you and your staff are doing. I think about a few years ago, the fight that some school districts put up for the movement to healthier food. And the arguments we'd hear, well, kids just won't eat healthy food. They want chicken strips and, they want French fries, deep fried French fries. They want sugar. And I think what we're doing is we're proving them wrong. And we're proving that we can feed kids in ways that are healthy and that will reduce obesity, will increase attention at school. I know you and I just shared the article from the Washington Post about how Lunchables are now a staple of many school lunches. And the increases in sodium, looks like decreases in fiber. And those are not issues that we're having here. We are respecting food and we're respecting our students. And I really want to thank you guys for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mrs. Roger, I'm not forgetting about you. I don't see your hand, but I thought I should check in. And you're muted.
Okay. Hello, Mrs. Primer.
Camera to look at, but hi.
I know it's all ball except tonight. But I take your credit all the time when people tell me that the school lunches are so good. I'm so proud of the inroads you've made, and I'm really glad that you're being recognized nationally and locally for your innovative spirit and your caring for kids. Now, I'm wondering about the farms, the local farms that we're partnering with. What kind of criteria do you use when you're deciding if a new vendor is someone that you're interested in working with?
That's a great question. I would say that we look for things like, honestly, it's a lot of relationship. Are you willing to work with the school? A lot of times farmers and growers aren't familiar with what school business looks like. And as much as we have longevity and there's safety in our business, we do some things that are a little different than in the restaurant world or in industry. Things like, imagine going to a farmer and saying, hey, I want to buy all of these delicious apples and I want them today, but I'm going to pay you in 30 days. Is that cool? And that's what we do with every single vendor that we have, right? And so a lot of the relationship is explaining some of our nuance and what this process looks like and connecting around how important it is for kids. If we have a grower or a farmer or a rancher who has children or who understands the importance of a child eating their piece of produce, they're far more inclined to do business with us. There's actually not a volume amount, and I think this is a big misnomer. I've had many farmers who've said to me, well, I could never grow enough apples or whatever for your program. And that is absolutely false. Doesn't matter how many you grow, work with us. Because I want kids to be able to experience a Mutsu apple for the first time. Is it 7,600 students? Not on this one. But I want to buy a variety of different things so that every kid gets to experience something. Long are the days of just investing in red delicious apples, right? Like we really want to diversify those things. The other piece that farmers don't always understand, or even just other industry folks or non-industry folks, are, oh, that's so nice that you got those local apples. Did the farmer donate them to you? And I laugh because no, farmers get paid real money. They make real products and they deserve that kind of respect in our food system. So it's really important for us that we work with a number of different growers and providers, that we're able to work with them on what their best price is. We're really wanting to make sure that we diversify our purchases, that we're able to access more things, more types of things, more varieties of things. But this is very different in terms of procurement, not from a acceptability standpoint, but from a typical standpoint. So we do a lot of micro purchasing and small purchasing versus our big formal procurement bids. We really want to make sure that more people can participate in our program that are interested in. So that still stands. If anybody knows anybody, send them our way. We actually just started a direct relationship with Hearst Ranch this week. So we're continuing to expand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wanted to just tell a little story. I told Aaron this earlier this evening, but I attended 2 school board meetings last week, 2 different districts in North County, and at each one, the food services people, it must be food service presentation week or something, because their food services people were making presentations, and they passed around packages of breakfast biscuits from Brown Butter Cookie Company.
Really?
And they were talking about how they were made with whole wheat products and a greatly decreased amount of sugar. They can't call them a cookie because they don't have butter. I mean, it was this, I learned a lot. And I took one and said, this is fabulous. I am going to tell Erin Primer all about this. And I told the food services person, I'm taking this back to my district to tell Erin Primer. And the person said, this was her idea. Building this relationship with Brown Butter Cookie Company and working to create a recipe that would meet the standards to be used in the school districts. So I can't tell her anything. I was so excited, and then learned that there is a cooperative among the smaller districts, and that Erin made that possible. So her reach is vast and her influence is great among our county. And we have several districts that have much higher need for healthy food than we have, and I appreciate your interest and devotion to all kids everywhere. It really speaks highly of who you are as a person, and I'm most appreciative. So
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
I appreciate that. Okay, I'm taking my apples. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next, you've been waiting patiently back there. We have a K-5 English Language Arts Curriculum Adoption Update. Welcome.
Thank you. Great. Excellent. Good evening again. Tonight, myself, as well as Chelsea Smiley, who is our elementary curriculum teacher on special assignment, are really excited to provide the board with an update on the elementary ELA adoption process. So taking a look at how we're going to spend our time this evening, we want to look back to the work that the reading committee did last year. We'll start there, and then we're going to talk a little bit about why. Why are we doing this adoption now? Why is this relevant? Why this timing? We'll then dive into how we've taken some of the current research and then use that information to inform the work that the reading committee did in creating a personalized curriculum evaluation rubric that we're now using as we pilot. After that, we'll speak to the adoption timeline and where we're at and wrap up with some future plans.
So the history, I wanted to remind you that in 2021, we adopted 612, an ELA curriculum from HMH called Into Literature. So the elementary K-5 picked up from there, and we had 4 days with our reading committee and where we looked at district data and current science of reading together. We looked at our grade level standards and our grade level frameworks from the CDE, and we invited all of the publishers that we decided we wanted to hear from to come and present and use the rubric that Mrs. Shepherd referred to, and decided on the pilot programs that we wanted to have come to our district, and also the next steps and how we would make that successful. So that has been our reading committee last year work, and we are moved on this year with piloting.
So the board may recall seeing this flow chart from previous adoptions that have been done within our district. And as with the previous adoptions, the K-5 ELA adoption has followed and will continue to follow this 8-step process. So last year, the reading committee took steps 1 through 5, and currently we are in step 6, where we're training teachers, we're piloting across the school sites at all levels. And then we will move next into step 7, where we're really using that rubric to evaluate the pilot curricula. And then we will be inviting feedback from staff, from community, and finally we'll bring a recommendation before the board in the spring.
So the question of why now and the rationale. In 2013 was our last ELA pilot. That was around the time when the Common Core came, and with the Common Core came a 50-50 literacy and research or information. So students could do research on monk fruit, for example. That was a highlight. So it's time from 2013. We know how well so many of our students do, but we also looked at the data and we know that we have a cadre of kids who need us in a little bit of a different way. So it's time to get some materials that cover a broader spectrum. So to help support that, all those students, we know that we had so much PD on the ELD framework and how to teach our students ELD. And so this kind of goes with the next one, changes in staff. PD works, but when people retire and move on, we have to build up our whole new staff. And I think you remember last year, Mr. Mayfield shared that we had over 50% new staff from 2019, I think it is. So we need an ELD curriculum that's connected to our English language arts curriculum that all teachers can follow when they come in, whenever they come in. So that's the rationale for why now.
I'll invite the board to read this next slide. We bring this before you tonight because there is such a vast amount of research to dive into that we don't have time to do that this evening, but we have set aside time in January with the board to be able to do this. And I want to highlight just the fact that Chelsea Smiley and Rick Mayfield led this work with the reading committee last year to be able to inform the work and some of the other pieces that we're going to highlight. And these are deep waters to dive into, and we look forward to discussing it further with you all in January.
So how to take that theory into actual classroom practice. The book Shifting the Balance, the K2 version, came out last year, and in instructional services we did a book study and we're able to bring the learning from K2, it's 6 shifts they call them, to bringing the most recent research to reading in K2, and those special things that I know you all have talked about and asked about. You will see evidence of the shifts in classrooms and also in our intervention models. There was a lot of learning that happened. The 3-5 book is hot off the presses. We just got it in instructional services. We were able to pre-order it last year, so I still have colleagues who are waiting for their copy out in the teacher land. So 3rd through 5th grade, we're doing a deep dive book study in instructional services, our elementary team, and looking forward to seeing how we can bring professional development K5 so that as we have a new reading adoption, when we come to you with the recommendation, teachers have the foundation of the most actionable research and they know what to look for and how to high leverage that new curriculum.
So some of the learning that was done around the science of reading, as well as being pulled from this Shifting the Balance resource, Chelsea and Rick both led the reading committee to come to these agreements around what are these key elements that we absolutely cannot do without in our next curriculum. And so you'll see here some of those foundational skills are called out first. We absolutely have to have phonemic awareness addressed as well as phonics within this next curriculum. In addition, we want to ensure that fluency, comprehension, vocabulary, as well as language development are embedded within the program very clearly. The reading committee also wanted to see that there's a plethora of book options, and not just any books, but books that allow our students to see diverse perspectives and learn about others that may be different from them, as well as being able to see themselves within the books. So you'll see that reference there has been done around mirrors and windows within the district. In addition, the reading committee understood and wanted to call out the importance of having these cross-curricular connections, as well as the English learner development being embedded within the curriculum. So not something separate or supplemental, but something that was actually embedded within the day-to-day instruction. Teachers are asking for solid ongoing teacher training and support, which makes my heart sing, and we are working on that plan currently. And they also want to make sure that we have assessments along the way. Formative assessments kind of are those check-ins that happen more frequently. Teachers are saying, yes, we absolutely have to have that, as well as the summative assessments that happen more so at the end of the units. So those are those key pieces that going into looking at the various curricula that we were saying as a reading committee, we have to have these pieces, and we're not going to pilot something that does not contain these elements.
So how do we discern if those elements are present? We created a rubric with our reading committee, but the rubric was guided, and I have to read this, guided by a toolkit created by the California County Superintendent's Educational Services Association. I don't know the acronym. I don't know if you can say it for short. CESA, thank you. CESA, okay. I learned something new. So in CESA's rubric, they have 6 categories that are required. These are also required when curriculum present to the state to try to become identified as a state adopted curriculum, state recommended. So we're looking for standards alignment, that all the standards in a Common Core are aligned K through 5, and there's adequate practice and representation of all of those standards. We're looking at program organization. Is it friendly? Is it easy? Does it make sense? Does it build on itself in a way that makes sense for students and for teachers? Assessment, as Mrs. Shepherd represented. Universal access. That's often about digital access. So can kids read on the computer? Can they listen? Can the print get larger? That tends to be universal access. Instructional planning and teacher support embedded. A lot of this happens in the digital space also, where you can go, they actually have PD inside the digital platform so teachers can watch a sample lesson or what a routine looks like. And again, back to that English learner development. So these are the areas that our rubric include, and there are subsets in this very comprehensive rubric that we created that are a little bit special for San Luis Coastal. You might remember the roadmap. We did a lot of driving last year. We're on a similar, very familiar road. I don't need to point out all the points to you, but the box is where we are. We just finished pilot number 1. We got together to evaluate what we thought about pilot number 1 and give feedback to see how we can make the next pilot more successful. And you'll see that the road ends with you, with a recommendation coming to you towards the end of April. So we have enough time for that parent community feedback piece.
All right, so a look backwards in terms of communication that happened with the reading committee last year. This is one of those areas of focus for us, not only from looking at how things were done previously, but also as we look ahead to the adoption itself. So last year, following each gathering of the reading committee, you can see, and linked within these slides, there are actually slide decks that the reading committee members would take back to their sites and present at a staff meeting. They would then gather feedback from the school site that they brought back to the next reading committee meeting. So you can see there was a lot of two-way communications with those reading committee representatives really acting as conduits, taking the information to the site and then bringing the feedback back to the committee itself. As we look ahead, a lot of this pilot work is being talked about at the sites, but we want to formalize the communication and ensure that there is a monthly update that goes out to the board as well as to staff, letting them know where we at on that roadmap, what's coming next. And in addition, we want to start front loading some of this information, sharing some of the research in small chunks with our staff so that they have the opportunity to do some of that deep dive that the reading committee themselves were able to do last year. Knowing that not everyone will have the time to access those tools, we are still planning also for PD that will happen coming up in the spring. That was a lot of information. What questions do you all have?
I'm going to see if anyone from the public has any questions or comments about this presentation. Since there's no one from the public physically present at the meeting, I will look at those participating remotely. Seeing nothing, well, Mr. Buckman, Mr. Banfield, Mr. Clausen.
Wow, what a lot of work. Please let everybody know how much I appreciate all their input. It's just ongoing and a lot. I did have one question. If you can kind of tell me the thinking behind where in the process the public has input, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. That'll be the step before we come to the board with the recommendation. So on that, it's called the IMAP adoption process. Step 8 allows us to give, I believe it's 2 weeks time for the public to provide that feedback. We are still working out the details of what that is going to look like. And Mrs. Yamashita and myself actually today were discussing whether or not we might be able to make digital access available so that we're reducing those barriers. Traditionally, curriculum is offered to review during work hours at a site that's often not convenient for families or the public to get to. And so we're trying to remove some of those barriers as we move forward. So there will be that window that's required. And we're going to be sure to meet that before we come to the board to make the recommendation in April.
Thank you.
Mr. Buckman, I want to address last year because we talked about this last year. I know community input is an ongoing request and it's appreciated. We invited parents to be a part of the reading committee and we had 2 willing to commit. It's hard to spend a whole day with us. And we bought lunch. So we tried to sweeten it. But we did get 2 parents to participate and they gave input and they had a lot of learning. One ended up getting a job, which benefited us. So we were happy to let them go do their job. But they didn't continue because the piloting isn't part of what parents can do. So we did have input last year.
So it was earlier on this time.
It was earlier on. We did it last year with all of the learning and looking at the data and establishing the rubric. We had some some community participation.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Banfield, then Mr. Clausen.
I had a similar question, but I guess it's a wait and see. You're going to figure out what it's going to look like to have the community review.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as I mentioned to Mr. Buckman, what we're really trying to do is reduce those barriers so that we're not asking people to come in and review the physical materials, but allowing them to be able to access online.
Yeah, digital sampling might be a better way. Get that communicated though, so that you have a greater sampling of the public.
Absolutely.
Curious, you were talking about mirrors and windows. What is that? What would those, are we talking fiction? Are we talking nonfiction? Are we talking both? What are we saying? Short story, novels? What is that?
I think it really doesn't matter which genre we're talking about. I think that it can be within nonfiction, it can be within fiction, but we want our books to reflect the diversity that we have not only within our community, but the diversity that's out in our worlds as well. And for students to be able to see themselves in books, whether they're fiction or nonfiction, is incredibly important. And for our students to also be able to learn about diverse perspectives is the other aspect that we wanted to ensure was embedded within the curricular materials. And perhaps Chelsea wants to speak a little bit to the work that was done previously. She was teaching me today about what happened previously in the district with this work.
just quickly, I can't even remember the year, but we did an audit on some of our books that we had purchased for our units to see how diverse, how representative they were for our students and for students across California and to Mrs. Shepherd's point, the country. So we were able to identify some holes in our collection and work to put some money to fill those holes, to make sure that when students walk in classrooms, when they walk in libraries, that they are met, as she said, with images that look like them and also opportunities to learn about other perspectives in both fiction and nonfiction.
I can see what the windows would be, the value of that. I'm trying to see what would be the motivation of the mirrors. In other words, when they see themselves, what would they learn?
So there's a wonderful author named Grace Yee. She has a TED Talk that she did, and she talked about growing up Asian in a small town in California, and the opportunity that she didn't have to see herself in movies, in books, in television shows, and how powerful representation is to validate who you are and who you can dream to be.
Yeah. One other question about universal access. How universal are we really talking when we're saying, I think you mentioned large text, audio. The reason I bring it up is because I remember one time years ago at Baywood, I had a blind student and we had to send to the county math and all sorts of stuff that could be prepared for him. Does this publisher have something like that in place?
That's a great question. We're currently working with the county because we have a blind student, and it doesn't seem like many publishers come with blind materials pre-prepared that we've seen, and it is costly to create the materials, though we're committed to making that happen. So we have been working with the people at the county to stay ahead of that for those.
True, it's more the exception than the rule. I was just curious.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Foss and then Mr. Unger.
So my question may sound funny. I don't fully follow the presentation, and I think maybe the solution is I just need maybe some one-on-one time to understand this. But I understand the high-level concepts. I look at the roadmap. I see we're doing a pilot, and then a deliverable. But I don't understand what the pilots are or what the end deliverable is that we're creating. So like if a parent said, what's your takeaway on this? I actually don't get it. I don't know. I know we have a roadmap, but I don't know. What was the pilot? What did we just do? How did it go? What's the next pilot? What's it like? What are we reviewing next summer? And I just feel like I'm sounding silly asking that, but I guess if I don't get it, other people may not too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the work that the reading committee did was to take, there are a great many curriculums that we can choose from out there from publishing houses. And so the reading committee was able to narrow it down to 3 that we would pilot. So what pilot means is essentially that you're taking a unit from that curriculum and you're implementing it to the greatest fidelity possible within your classroom. So instead of teaching the currently adopted curriculum, our pilot teachers are actually taking this other curriculum that we have not formally adopted and they're testing it out. They're going to try out all of those various components with their students to see, what does this feel like? How does this actually read when I'm going through it? Does the flow make sense? Is it does it possess all of those components and those key elements that we have identified from the committee, from the reading committee? And then we come together as a group of pilot teachers after each unit is taught to then say, what do we think? We take that rubric back out and we evaluate the curriculum to say, how was it in this area? Where did it land here? And so we're looking essentially for those areas of strength within the curriculum. And if there are areas of weakness, and then we move on to the next set of curricula to say, now we're going to test out this one. So we've wrapped up the first trial, if you will, with the first curriculum, and we've had that evaluation process. And now we're getting ready to train the teachers on the second, what we call pilot. And so they'll bring forward now the second curriculum, try that out, and we'll go through that same process to select the one that meets all of our criteria.
Okay, that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to sit
Yeah.
down another time and explain that.
So
in
is the
greater
idea
detail.
then you'll pilot 3, you'll select one, you'll make a recommendation at the end of the year, and then that's
You got
sounds
it.
great. Okay.
Mrs. Roger, I have you. Mrs. Roger, I have you on the list. Don't worry. Your turn is coming. Okay, I have Mr. Unger, Mr. Buckman, then Mrs. Roger.
So I'm sort of following up on Mr. Clausen was asking. How do the teachers evaluate student learning based on the pilots? So do we use an assessment that sort of a standard assessment that we have some data on? Can you talk about that a little bit?
So we have a standards-based report card, as you know. So we started by looking at the assessments that are in the curriculum, and everybody identifies standards in the assessment. Yay, new curriculum. And so we backwards map from there to make sure that we were really focusing on the standards that we know students need to work toward, so that by T1, everybody was prepared in the way that they would have been otherwise. So we did look at the assessments that are embedded, and some of the things we have to question is, does it represent what was being taught? These are some things. And if not, what did we have to do? The priority is on making sure our students learn how to read, and using the curriculum as best we can to get there in this pilot time.
I just want to say that I appreciate the time. I think Mrs. Shepherd and I are going to spend a little time together because I'm really interested in this. And I want to thank you for this presentation. It's really helpful just as kind of a starter for what we have to do. I personally think this is going to be one of the most important decisions that the board makes, certainly within the next few years. This really gets to the question of what do we want our kids to learn? How are we teaching our kids? And can we close or at least shrink the achievement gap that we're seeing? And one of the ways that we do that, I think, is through reading instruction. Clearly, we know that. And so I'm really excited, and I'm really super excited to hear that you're going to be reporting to the board, because again, I think this is critical for us to be able to move forward. So thank you.
Right. Mr. Buckman, then Mrs. Roger.
First of all, I want to thank you again, but I also want to thank Chris. Chris has kept this reading on the table and on the plate for us, and I really appreciate it, Chris. This is going to be a little hard. It's Halloween, but I want to tell a little Christmas story, and it goes to windows and mirrors. So when I worked at Santa Maria Bonita School District, I didn't make a lot of money. So in the morning during the holiday season, I went to my second job, and I can't remember the name of the store. I also went downtown with my daughter, who's Black, and we went to all the stores, and they all had an angel on top of the tree. Oh, la, 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 la. And I was at the store one that morning, and there was a black angel, and I brought it home, and we put it up. My wife and I put it up there while my daughter was asleep. And when she came out the next morning, and I think she was about 4, she stood in front of that tree for at least 4 minutes, just looking up, sad, and then with a big smile. And that's why windows and mirrors. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry that I'm taking time, but I just had to get it in there. Again, Chris, thank you.
Mrs. Roger.
That was great, Mr. Buckman. That was really, that was heartwarming. Thank you. I know I have told this before, so please, people who've been with me a long time, forgive my redundancy. But many years ago, when Hector was a pup, I was asked, and I can't remember why I was asked, maybe because I was on site council at Baywood, or just because I was an active parent, but I was asked to be part of a group of parents that reviewed an ELA adoption, an elementary adoption. And we all went up to the district office, and I think there was a representative from every elementary school. or maybe more than one, I don't know. I was the only one from Baywood. And I remember thinking, I'm looking at these 2 adoptions and I'm not a teacher. So how can I possibly ascertain which is better for students in terms of teachability and learning? And what I ended up doing, because I felt so lame, was just what did I think, which of the 2 did I think was more engaging? Looking at it in terms of the pictures and picking up a bit of the text. Now I would be able to look more to, is this adoption more inclusive than that one? Is this one more through an equity lens? You know, what is this adoption representing? And what is that adoption representing? But still, the bottom line is I'm not a teacher and I don't know what works best for teachers. So when we talk about parent involvement or community engagement, that was my experience, that I think you needed to really be involved with the materials and anticipating teaching the materials to have a voice that, you know, was really powerful, useful voice. I don't know if I articulated that very well, but anyway, that's what I did. That was a long time ago.
Thank you, Marilyn. And it makes sense. I think it goes back to what Mr. Buckman was stating earlier when he was referencing having parents involved from the beginning. So that parent involvement within the reading committee, I would imagine that the parents who participated in that had a much different experience than what you just described, because they were a part of the learning that was happening with the teachers and could ask questions. It could be a little bit more interactive and educational versus looking at the materials without any context.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. You know, the thought occurred to me, and I might just be that slow and not understanding this. It comes on the heels of what Marilyn was saying. Could it be that, let's say we have a class that you know is going to be piloting the material? Do the families know that their class, that their children are going to be having that pilot?
That's a great question. Yes, they do know. I'm going to let Chelsea speak to. We were just talking with a teacher the other day about how this was communicated, and I'll let her share.
Okay. Well, I have some thoughts on that, if I could share. So let's say class, whatever, they've been selected. The teacher has volunteered to go ahead and pilot that material, and communication is sent out. Let's say a good communication is sent out, and the parents know that their children are going to participate in this pilot. At that time or during that pilot, is it possible that parents could somehow review that material while it's being piloted and talk with their children and say, well, what do you think of that? What do you think of this? You know, what are you learning from this? Would that constitute perhaps a more efficient, a better way of the community reviewing that material than just getting parents drawn in saying, we would like for you to come in and review this material?
We do have regulations around how long we are supposed to allow access for parents to review the materials. So not that we couldn't intersperse that, but I believe the idea behind that would be that parents are reviewing the curriculum that we've narrowed down to, and they're having the opportunity to provide feedback with that. I know that, to go back to what you were asking about the teachers and the communication, I think that what teachers are communicating to their families is that their child learning to read or continuing along their reading journey is of the utmost priority. And what we want parents to know is that that is not going to fall through the cracks while we're testing out or trying out these other curricula throughout the school year. So that really has been the messaging to the families, because these pilot teachers are really being vulnerable and taking a risk. It's a huge lift to try out not just your normal one ELA curriculum, but to go through and try out 3 other curricula throughout the school year and learn that, how to navigate it, prep for it. So the learning curve is steep.
Are you
they're getting
saying,
through it.
I'm sorry, are you saying that an instructor is asked to not pilot just one, but
Correct.
3 in the
Yes,
year?
it's the same group of teachers so that they are able to take what they've learned when piloting the
would make
first
sense.
curriculum. We're then comparing it against the next and then the next as well with the same rubric.
I'm just thinking, wouldn't it be,
If I could speak up briefly, we are
Yeah.
very transparent with our families about any of the materials that we're using in our classrooms.
Sure.
So the teachers would notify their families that they have an alternate program that they're using, and that, but the focus, right? Books don't teach students to read.
No.
Teacher action teaches students to read. And so we are going to promote that the teachers are they're continuing in their efforts to teach the children to read. If a parent would like to come and view any of the materials in our classrooms, we would arrange and support that.
okay.
All right, I just wanted to thank you on the heels of all the other comments about these thoughtful and comprehensive reports you've been providing for a while now. This is not the first evening of this, and the roadmap that we've been following all along. It's really laying the groundwork for our families and our teachers and staff to understand what we're doing here, as well as the community at large, to know that we have a process that we're following and that we are engaging and including as many participants as possible. I know that each time I hear a presentation, I learn more. And speaking to the diversity, the inclusivity, the all voices, the windows and mirrors, you know, as someone who believes that the ability to read and think about what is being what you're reading and engage with it in a deep and thoughtful manner can actually change a life. And I appreciate that very much. So thank you for bringing us along on this journey as we move forward with this. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
All right, next we have a couple of action items. First is 10.03, measure C22, an award of a lease of a contract. Mr. Pinkerton.
Yeah, so tonight we have the next 2 leaseback agreements that we've discussed several times with the board in our study sessions. And so the first one is the award of the leaseback construction services for CL Smith. I'm going to quickly just pull up the best value score, walk the board through the information so that you can kind of see how it came out. So we had not as many bids this time, so only 4 for CL Smith. That said, we had some really solid numbers come through. Again, 4 school contractors. The first part is just the qualifications, right? So do you have audit exceptions? How many projects have you, DSA projects have you done over a certain amount of funds, those types of things. So that can vary again from a 0 to 100. So what you'll see is all 4 contractors scored in the 90 to 100% range on that score basis. And then the actual fee proposal, which is a large chunk of the actual scoring. So in this case, Wyson Construction had a fee proposal of 11.2%. Again, for the board to know, this is all inclusive. Pre-construction services, general conditions, profit, all of those are built into this percentage that they're giving us for these projects. This is one of the, out of the two we've done so far, but this is a very low percentage. So we had 11.75 for the first two projects. This one tonight is 11.2 for Wyson Construction. So based on that fee proposal, you'll see that the overall score from the qualifications, as well as the points for their profit margin, combined to tally. So at 194 points, Wyson Construction would be the best value. And thus the ranks that you'll see at the bottom. Number 2 was Mano Construction, Acme Construction was 3rd, and then F&H Construction was number 4. So tonight we're asking the board to approve the CL Smith lease-leaseback agreement with Wyson Construction.
I'd like to go to the public, see if there is anyone with a comment or question about this topic. Seeing no one, we'll come back to the board. Any questions, comments? Mr. Clausen?
Yeah, I have one question about the methodology.
Huh?
When I've reviewed these, it seems like on the quality scale, most applicants earn a 91 or higher, and there's 10 points of difference between each tier on the pricing level. And so it seems like it's a complex way of just going straight to pricing. Is that?
I mean, what I would tell you is if you have qualified contractors, and so a lot, in these cases, all 4, a lot of school work, they're school contractors is what they do. So they're qualified. Mano Construction, Acme, White, I mean, they're all really solid in that way. So yeah, they're all going to meet that qualification part. Now, if you had somebody who off the street had issues, had done construction, they wouldn't be scoring in this. We're just not getting those people to come forward, right, to actually want to bid on one of these.
So we
jobs.
generally have a very high quality pool of applicants on most of
Absolutely.
our RFPs, and so therefore cost becomes the main factor, and the process seems like it's created aggressive pricing behavior, which is our desired outcome, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's an interesting dynamic, right? Because there is, I've seen everything from putting interviews into the situation as a 3rd scoring article, those types of things. And so for us, this is just a really clear, everyone has the same opportunity. We're not picking and choosing people, backdoor, those types of things, right? It's a real kind of straightforward process that Lozano Smith has given us. And so far, we've been fortunate to have 3, positive contractors move forward. And tonight I'm going to bring you a 4th in a minute, kind of along that same way. But definitely seeing as we put these 2 at a time out, we're definitely getting a good price, right? So we're seeing them have to be very competitive in their bids moving forward. And so at the end of the day, that just means that we can do more projects, right? We can get more for the taxpayers' dollars. So in those ways, it's a positive thing.
Okay, Mrs. Roger, then Mr. Unger.
I think it sort of piggybacking on Mr. Clausen's question, Mr. Pinkerton, would you say that our bidders are pre-qualified? So we have a select bid list. We know the bonding capacity. We know the track record. We know everything of the people that we request, that we accept proposals from.
So 2 things, right? So they all have to be pre-qualified, which is a little bit easier than what we request in terms of the information for this RFQP. I mean, they have to give us everything from their financial statements to their audits to their bonding capacity. After the first one, we found out that we didn't need to necessarily know their bonding capacity. We needed to know what was left in their bonding capacity, right? So we, in our amendments to the RFQP, when we put that information in after we scored the first ones. And so it's, I mean, when we look at qualifications and we give them these scores, I mean, they have to meet those strict requirements that have been laid out in that RFQP by Lozano Smith.
And these contracts that we're letting now, are only for phase one construction.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So at CL Smith, this is the addition of 2 temp housing portables. They've been moved there, but we're going to basically clean them up, carpet paint, roof, those types of things, as well as a new TK modular portable on campus. This is the 2 new childcare portables that are there, as well as modernizing the current K building, the 2 classroom building there, and restrooms. That's phase 1.
Mr. Buckman, Mr. Unger.
So
Sorry,
just
sorry.
kind of thinking about the qualification piece, it goes back to, I think, what we first started talking about with Measure D. I'm hoping that I've got this right, to avoid, what is it, the guy with the pickup truck, the shovel and the dog? Is that
Right.
kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Buckman.
So I understand they're pre-qualified and I understand Mr. Clausen's comment, I think, but as one board member, I'm happier when there's at least 2 pieces that we're looking at as opposed to just the price.
Sure, absolutely.
It,
We have to
right
with
now,
qualifications.
it may just be a gut reaction for me,
Have to.
but I have to say thank you.
Yeah. We are going to have some projects that are designed bid builds, which will be different, right? So those are very price centered. As we move through, we have 3 of those. So we're gonna, after this first phase, we're gonna have the board will have some decisions to make, right? I want to kind of see how this lease back, how the design bid build goes. We have Baywood, which is a much bigger project. And so we still have the potential of a design build contract for that. So we'll see how this unfolds over the next few months. And I'll be able to bring that information related to the board to make decisions on those next projects.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's my understanding also that by doing this in phases and spreading the work around a little bit, it also gives us a little preview, perhaps, of what the various companies do, the quality of their work, the efficiency, the timeliness, the change orders, all those
Absolutely.
things that we keep an eye on. Okay, thank you. This is an action item to approve this. Anyone?
I move that we approve this.
We have a motion by Mr. Banfield, a second by Mr. Buckman. Mr. Banfield,
Yes.
Mr. Buckman, Mr. Clausen,
Yes.
Mrs. Roger,
Yes.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Right, thank
So
you.
the next project is Hawthorne Elementary School. At this site, we're looking at an exterior of the campus, right, including roofs, new HVAC, which includes heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Also looking at setting up the 3 new K classrooms on the campus, right, bringing in 2 childcare portables, and so a lot of work over that time. I will tell the board too that when the board does make this approval, Mr. Bonin and myself sit down with the contractor. We make it really clear about what our expectations are for the job and what we see moving forward. The timeline aspect, part of this, bringing them on early with the lease back and pre-construction services so that we don't have change orders and that they're limited, right? Our team is much stronger, going over all of our architect plans right now with the architects. So with the contractor, so RSH, who was the first award for the first 2, they have attended the past 4 architect meetings with us. So they're very, very integral into the conversation, making sure that they're tied in from the get-go and that everyone's on the same page as we enter these construction agreements. So in this case, we had, really kind of blown away as I went through some of the prices here for the next, but as you'll see, based on the contract qualifications, we had Acme, F&H, Harris Construction was included in this qualification, right? Wysong, as well as Mano Construction Company. And then you'll see the fee proposals. So what happens is the project at Hawthorne is bigger in scope, more money, right? So because of that, you'll see lower fee proposals, right? Because they're bigger jobs. So they're going to make more money with a lower fee. But honestly, the 9.5 was pretty low, right, from the competition standpoint. And I know Harris has worked with Darden Construction or Darden Architects, who is the architect on this site, many projects, so knows them well. So I don't know if that contributed to them knowing they had a great architect that they wanted to really get this job. So we a great bid right all around. So we saw other contractors that had 16, 18% in previous lease specs, even for this one too. Acme 11%, Wysong 11.2. I mean, they're really getting their pencil sharp, right, in terms of this bid. So based on those qualifications, based on the point scoring rubric that we had, Harris Construction came out as the top in terms of the best value score at 195, with Acme number 2, Wysong number 3, F&H Construction, and Mano Construction number 5. So based on the qualifications and price put forward, we're asking the board tonight to approve Harris Construction for this project at Hawthorne Elementary School.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this? No one. Will come back to the board. Mr. Banfield.
I would hope that the public is taking note of this, because this establishes proof that the district is not favoring one company above another. We can clearly see this. I think this is a very important piece of evidence for that. I like that. It's good.
It's a good point. Anyone else from the board? Right. This also is an action item.
Move approval of item 11.04, measure C22 RFPQ number 320.
I second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Unger and a second by Mr. Clausen. Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
Mr. Buckman.
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Mrs. Roger.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Thank you very much.
We have 2 more coming in next week. I'll be back.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of busy folks out there.
Yeah.
All right, next is our action consent agenda. Please let me know if you'd like anything pulled. 11.01, approval of certificated and classified personnel items. 11.02, acceptance of donations. 11.03, approve increases to SEIU salary schedule update. 11.04, approve quarterly report on uniform complaint filings, Williams settlement. 11.05, proposed annual review of board policy 5116.1, intra-district open enrollment, second reading. 11.06, proposed revisions to board policy 5145.6, parental notifications, second reading. 11.07, proposed revisions to board policy 6174, education for English learners, second reading. Right, nothing was pulled. I would ask for a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
I would like to, because I don't have it in front of me, I can't go by number. So I would like to propose approval of the consent agenda in its entirety.
Thank you. So that's 11.01 through 11.07. Thank you.
Correct.
Mr. Clausen.
Second, please.
Thank you. Good job. All right. We have a motion by Mrs. Roger and a second by Mr. Clausen. Mrs. Roger.
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
Mr. Buckman.
Yes.
Sorry. No, it's the last motion of the evening and I messed up my little chart, and Mrs. Dawson, I have to be correct for Mrs. Dawson. Mr. Unger.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. All right. Next is anything for the advanced agenda. Nothing. Under informational, I have developer fee report. Is that something that needs to be on there this evening? Mr.
So
Green?
by law, we actually have to have it as an informational item first,
Oh,
and it has to be out publicly for, I believe, 15 days. And so At our next board meeting, we'll be bringing that forward
Oh.
as an action item.
So on our informational agenda, we have 13.01 developer fee report.
Just want to be legally
We will be talking about that
in the
at
future.
our next meeting. 13.02 reports by board members. Mr. Unger,
Well, there's a couple of things. First, I wanted to thank Mr. Bloom for accompanying me on a visit here to Loams. And specifically, there are some teachers' classrooms I visited, and I wanted to thank them for letting me come in and disrupt things and talk to them and see what kind of stuff they're working on. First, I want to thank Mrs. Avila and her Spanish class, Ms. Padiachi in 6th grade English and Humanities, really interesting class. Mr. Taylor, of course, in special education, and Ms. Yuhas Fahy in math. And really, we had some really interesting discussions, and she showed me some really neat things that they're doing for math, and how the students are actually setting goals for themselves and what they're looking at for the goal setting. I thought that was pretty cool. We did go to Alice in Wonderland at Morro Bay High School, and one of the things that that Mr. Scaldi didn't mention, that was not mentioned, is the job that Ms. Kosteka did. She's the teacher. But even more so, I think that it was really a student-run production. And I want to call out Angus McNeely, who was the student director and who really worked hard and who has worked hard on that throughout his career. And according to Ms. Kosteka, he came to her when he was a freshman and said, I want to be a director and I want to do the things that I can learn to be a director. And so that's what he did. And it was really pretty neat. And then I'd like to thank Adam Dale and Willie Richardson for letting me come into their 4th grade class at Baywood. They were doing, Mr. Dale is, by the way, he's our teacher of the year. He's a special day class teacher. They bring students into Mr. Richardson's class, into their 4th grade class. They were doing a lesson on California geography, and then the role that it plays in the indigenous population in California. And it was great to see our SDC kids in there with the 4th grade class, really, included with both Mr. Richardson as the teacher and with Mr. Dale as really the co-teacher in the class. It was great stuff. And then again, today, there was a foundation meeting. Dr. Prater and I were there. I think it was a really good meeting. We reviewed some of the great stuff that the foundation has been doing and some things that the foundation is thinking about doing. And I think we haven't gotten the official word yet, but the gala was a huge smashing success and really helped out the foundation and the good work the foundation is doing.
thank you. Mr. Banfield.
Nothing.
Oh, your mic was on. Mr. Buckman.
Oops. Busy night for me, banging into things. I just want to thank the Hawthorne PTA. I was able to attend. A lot of members present, a lot of good discussion. I keep saying it, they're the foundations for the schools, and it was very impressive. And I was feeling right back in my roots. It was good.
Mr. Clausen.
I enjoyed seeing both the San Luis Obispo and Morro Bay High School communities come together for cross district football game and homecoming for San Luis Obispo. And it's just great to see teams and the bands and the cheer squads and the parents all out in one place in one of our new facilities. It was cool.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Thanks very much.